Hello, I'd like to introduce you to Claire Jennings. Claire is working on her master's degree in cybersecurity engineering at the University of Washington, Bothell. And Claire has returned to get her undergraduate and graduate degree. She's a mom of a bright, beautiful 6-year-old daughter, and I'd like Claire to tell you a little bit about herself.
All right, so I have been in industry for 20 years now. Fell into it at the dot-com boom and stayed in it. And right when I got pregnant, ironically, I was really at a place where it was starting to get boring. All of the interesting problems on web dev had been solved, and now you were taking this piece and putting it there, and it wasn't as interesting. And so I went and I'm like, okay, what do I want to do? And I went back and I got a bachelor's in business administration. And due to scheduling, it's not focused, but I found marketing really interesting. And then I'm coming back for the cybersecurity master's, which is flipped from what a lot of people did, but it's basically business and tech together, which is a good combination. And I'm also going cybersecurity because when you have a child, you really start to reevaluate your priorities and reevaluate what's really important. I want something that's interesting to me, but I want something that actually helps society. Before I was in games, video games, and now I want to make the world a better place for my daughter. I have a vested interest in it being a better place.
And as a mother of a 16-year-old, that's part of the reason I do workforce development and cybersecurity, because this is the new frontier that's going to impact our children and our children's children. So we have that shared commonality. And Claire, in doing the assessment that we did last night, and reviewing this, I found some very interesting things. I mean, you're obviously a very bright lady. I have never, ever met anybody who has such a high rating in spatial abilities. In fact, usually people can see things in 3D. You have an ability to turn things inside out. I mean, you're so spatial. So could you share some of what you told me about your background?
Oh, sure. Well, I didn't talk when I was a kid. I communicated with my sister, my best friend, with basically a made-up sign language that none of us know now. And then I went through school. They forced me to talk between kindergarten and 5th grade. I entered speech therapy at kindergarten, left at 1st grade. And I'm also dyslexic. And dyslexia, you're picking up the letters and you're turning them all around, and that's why you can't do it. So that I actually think is why I can do what I'm doing. My mom has some natural ability with spatial too, but the dyslexia combined with that really allowed me to see things in a different way than a lot of people do, and learning how to manage the not so nice parts of it allows me to take advantage of that. There's a lot of gifts in disabilities that people don't realize.
And that's the thing I really wanted to bring out, because when you shared this with me, and I mean, you've got your career training capacity is just off the charts. I mean, you're verbal, you have all of these other skills, you're very organized, and you made that point of telling me that your parents just never allowed anyone to put a label on you.
No, they didn't. I have a lot of problems with how label happy we are, because it would have been so easy to label me about 10 different ways. And unnecessary, they wouldn't let me hear, you hear all the times, girls aren't good at math. Or, that kid is autistic, you can't expect him to. And it's like, let people be people, let people learn how to interact with each other and with diversity. And at that point, you're going to get a lot more positive interactions and do more. I mean,
and yes, and the thing is about cybersecurity that it's such a broad field, and there's so much room for people in so many different areas. And when I started looking at your job satisfaction indicators, I was going like, oh my heavens, this is really interesting, because you are multitasking. Yes, and you don't like repetition. No, I mean, you want to be doing something, and this is the other thing. You do not like rules. You don't.
No, not at all.
Okay, so one of the things that, when I'm going to be doing some research on profiles of people that are successful in cybersecurity, and the thing is, there's such a wide range that there are professors that are saying, we don't want checklist people. We want people who are going to think like the bad guys or think out of the box. And I think they were describing you.
I think you're going to, like you said, it's a big field. I think you're going to need both. If you ever completely walk away from that, you're not going to be able to predict what they're doing, because they're looking at it and saying, what can I do that I'm not supposed to do?
Yes, and you mentioned that you played games, and you were a game developer, and you've even taken this into the classroom for your
Yes, without computers.
Tell me more about that.
It's called CS Unplugged, and you can actually get a decent amount of support out there. Mm-hmm. But I would bring in a lesson. I would start, code.org was wonderful at giving me a starting point, and they had several unplugged lessons. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I would also pull in a book, or if I had to write a story, to be able to talk. And then it's like, okay, we need to think about algorithms. Mm-hmm. What is the algorithm of planting a plant? Mm-hmm. And they learn the step-by-steps, and they're not distracted by the technology, but they're learning to think like a computer, and they're learning how to problem solve. That's the two things you need in computer sciences. You need to be able to problem solve, and you need to be able to think like a computer.
Well, you need to be linear. It is binary, on and off, which is really beneficial. And the reason that I want to bring this up is because I'm sure we have a lot of parents out there, and we are looking at a crisis in cybersecurity. We need 1 million people coming into this field, and to have a safe society, which you and I are both interested in.
Yes.
We want to make sure that people realize that this is for everyone.
And not just that, I want the kids growing up to be able to control their computers. That's the first step in securing themselves against them, is to not let the computers control them. They need to be able to control the computers. And then they need to know how it works, and then that layer, the policy, as much as I hate it, does need to be there.
Okay, so you appreciate the fact that, I know you see yourself as a rebel, and it's like, there are certain things that are important to you.
I generally think that thou shalt not kill is a good rule.
Well, and the thing is that as a T-Mobile intern, you by the way, you have no interest in managing. You don't want to control the world. You're a creator.
I'll do it if I have to in order to create the world I need to.
Well, and let's talk about this, because you are a bit of an you're a bit of an introvert, but you explained it to me differently.
I'm a trained extrovert.
Okay.
That basically means, and it became a necessity through my job. And you're kind of picking up on it. People watching will probably notice that sometimes I'll repeat a word, start to say it wrong, and repeat it. It's not natural for me to come up and talk, but it is so vital if you're going to create things and make a positive impact. I had to learn it. And so I learned how to talk, and then sometimes at the end of the day, I'm just drained, I'm dead. But it's so important that it's worth doing.
And you are really very, as Barbara Endicott and I would say, you're mission driven, because you really want to create a better world. So when we looked at your profile, and I was going like, okay, this is a person who's a creator, doesn't want to manage, doesn't want to get into influencing other people. You wanted to, so what's the target direction for your swim lane?
For my swim lane, I'm not 100% sure. There's kind of 3 different things that might be of interest to me. One is I have 20 years of software development experience. I can fold cybersecurity in there, go and help developers think about the secure development life cycle, and actually, not make the dumb mistakes that they don't know better than to make. any developer that tells you that they've never written a crapping code is not a good developer.
Yeah, okay.
Enough said.
Okay, we won't, we're not.
Second would be some kind of teaching, educating to the children to before 5 years old, preferably, so that they can actually start to protect themselves in the world they're in.
And that's almost like a hobby for you, because I know you donate your time. So let's keep it on the professional. And that's very valuable. I think all of us need to be getting that message across to people. So let's look at your third option, the other piece that you talked about last night.
I don't remember talking about this one last night.
Okay.
But you can change society through stories. And if I have the knowledge of cybersecurity and of how computers work, I can take that to media and to stories and change how people think about things. You've seen it with the doctor shows. There's all of a sudden women realized they could become doctors when they started seeing it in their parents' programming.
So, and actually we did talk about this because the media design is very important to you.
That is very high.
You know, and the other thing too, yes, it's very high, along with your spatial and creating interesting stories. And you see the big picture of cybersecurity. You understand it is a socio-technological system.
Yes, and people think it's technology. They forget that technology exists because of us.
Yes, and so sometimes our weakest links in cybersecurity as a profession are the people.
Yes, but they're also our most important customer.
Exactly, and so we need to be educating the customers, and I think that sounds like a very valiant mission for you. And as this year progresses, we're going to talk about that.
Yes.
Okay,
All right.
well, I want to thank you for coming today.
Thank you.